Today we're going to be making cherry almond clafouti. This is a French dessert. You will need dark sweet cherries, 2 cups worth, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, 2/3 of a cup of non-fat yogurt, some sugar, flour, 3 eggs, zest of lemon, some salt, and vanilla. Shall we get started? Hello, welcome to another episode of Beeville Live. Today I'm going to be making a very special French dessert. It's called cherry almond clafouti or clafouti, and it's a very light dessert and it's filled with fruit. Okay, this is actually something I saw on Weight Watchers, but they called for any kind of berries, which you could use, but the original recipe calls for cherries. And I had plenty of cherries in my freezer, so I decided to do that. So let's get started. All right, the first thing you're gonna need is 2 cups of cherries. Now these were frozen, so I just measured out 2 cups and I put them in the microwave for about a minute, just so they were defrosted. To that, you're gonna add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. Now the reason that you're putting the cornstarch onto the cherries is to keep them from sticking and ruining your recipe. So we're just going to put those there and give that a stir. Okay. Now I do have some juice in here, so I'm probably not going to put the juice in the pan because I don't want it to alter the recipe too much. So I stirred that up. I have a 9-inch pie plate which I have sprayed with non-stick cooking spray, and I'm going to place my cherries in the bottom. Actually, I think I can put the liquid in there. I'm not going to worry about that too much. I won't put all of it in, but I'll put some of it in. And you want to kind of move your cherries around so that they're evenly dispersed on the bottom of your pan. Okay, and this looked like an absolutely beautiful dessert. So we'll put that aside. Now the rest of it is super easy to make. Well, the first thing I did was I chopped up 3 tablespoons of almonds to sprinkle on the top. The original recipe called for sliced almonds. I didn't have sliced, I used natural almonds, so I just went ahead and pulsed them in my food processor. So we're going to top that at the end. I'll put that over here and bring my food processor out. So to my food processor, I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup of yogurt. And since yogurt is my liquid mix, I'm going to use, I never like to waste anything. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the juice that's in that cherry, from the cherries, and I'm going to add my yogurt to it. So I need 2/3 of a cup of non-fat plain yogurt, Greek yogurt. So I'm just going to level that out and put that into my dish. Put it down here so you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to use slightly less for the next scoop since I had that cherry juice in there to account for it, so I don't make my batter too wet. Take out a little bit. So what I did was I scooped out a little, about the amount that was in the dish, the cherries. Alright, so we're going to dump that into here. So after I add my 2/3 of a cup of yogurt in, I'm going to add 3 eggs. Now, one of the things that I was always told with eggs is you never crack them directly into your bowl, because if you have a bad egg, then you ruin everything. So let's crack them into this bowl. And since it's all getting mixed together, it doesn't matter if they're mixed with the other stuff. So normally this would be a yellow cake mixy kind of looking batter, but since I added the cherry juice, I wanted it to have a nice pink color because I thought it would be pretty. And those eggs are all okay, so we're going to add those directly to it. Okay, get rid of this. Okay, so we have our yogurt and we have our eggs in our food processor. And next I'm going to add a half a cup of flour plus 2 tablespoons. So I have a 1/4 cup measure for the sugar, so I'm just going to use it, so I only have the dirty one. So 1, get that level, 2, 1, 2. I like this recipe because it didn't call for a whole lot of flour, and with the pandemic I'm trying to make my flour last because I've been baking bread and all kinds of stuff with it, you know, pizza doughs. So 1/4 cup of sugar. So 1/4 cup is about 3 tablespoons of sugar. And we're a little shy of that. So I've added my sugar and my flour. Next, I'm going to have 1½ teaspoons of lemon zest. So some people don't know how to zest lemon. It's very simple. You get a grater, box grater or hand grater. You're going to use the fine side, and you scrub off your lemon, and then you just grate the outside. Now you have to remember that the zest is just the yellow part. You don't want the white part in there because the white part of the lemon is bitter. So a lot of people, you know, will just cut off slivers of it, and it really makes for bitter. And you don't have to throw the lemon out once you get the zest off. You can save it for lemon juice, which is what I'm going to do with this. So I need 1.5 teaspoons, and it smells absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to say that's going to be about the zest of 1 lemon. So now if you look in the cage, you'll see that there's a whole lot more in there. So you're going to need to scrape it out with your hand and then very carefully brush the grater with your finger to get the remaining. So that's about 1.5 teaspoons of zest, with a zest of 1 lemon. And I alter my recipes when I take them from other people, and I find that it doesn't make a difference. Okay. So after that, I am going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I always use real vanilla. Artificial vanilla isn't as good as the real stuff. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now this recipe calls for a ½ teaspoon of almond extract, and we have the almonds that we're going to place on top, but I'm going to use coconut because I like the flavor of coconut. I happen to have them. I didn't have almond, so I'm just going to add a ½ teaspoon of coconut. Ooh, it smells delicious. So I always put my stuff away whenever I'm cooking so that I don't have anything to clean up when I'm done. I'll put my flour back up, and my sugar, and my coconut. And I'm also going to need salt. So for salt, I'm going to need 1/8 teaspoon. So that's roughly a pinch of salt, or ½ teaspoon. So let's pour ½ teaspoon, because I know my measurements, and I know that 2/8 are 1/4. For years of teaching, I learned all that. Okay, so into this mix, I have put in 2/3 cup of yogurt, 3 eggs, a ½ cup plus 2 tablespoons of flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1½ teaspoons of lemon zest, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/2 teaspoon of either almond or coconut or some other flavored extract that you like, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. We're going to blend this together, okay? And I don't want to blast you out, so I'm going to shut the camera off and turn it back on. I'll be right back. Okay, I have totally mixed my batter. The food processor made it super, super easy. And I'm just scraping around to make sure I got everything. I'm going to slide this back and bring my pie plate over. And I am just going to pour my batter right over top of the cherries. Now I always take my center blade out so that I can easily get at the rest of the batter or whatever I'm mixing in my food processor. And if there's any dry particles stuck to the bottom, I kind of mix them in with the batter before I dump it into the plate. Make sure I get all that goodness in there. And then I just want to make sure that my cherries are in the right place. So I'm just going to kind of feel around a little bit with that because they're probably going to rise to the surface. Okay. And if they don't, it's not perfect. I don't worry about it. Okay. Next, I'm going to sprinkle on my chopped almonds that I ground up in the food processor. And you know, their slivers are nice, and maybe it looks a little bit better in presentation, but I don't think it's going to matter much for this dish. And I ground up my almonds all the time. They're fresher. Okay, that's going to go into a 350-degree oven for 50 to 55 minutes, and I will show you what it looks like when it's done. Bon appetit! Okay, when this comes out of the oven, which it just did, it's going to start to sink, and you can actually see it starting to sink, and that's what's supposed to happen. So as you can see in the back there, it's starting to go down and deflate. It was pretty puffy when I first brought it out, and that's fine. So I'm going to let it cool, and then I'll slice into it, and I'll show you what the inside looks like in a few minutes.